Hi there, Vanessa Lanham Day here again, and I'm at the end of week 6 of my 8-week body transformation. So I think I've got some quite interesting things to report. What I don't have to report is any change in my weight, and that's not because I've not lost anything. I just don't know. I don't know. I managed to get my diary in a complete muddle, and I thought I was going to be in the gym today, but I'm not. So had I have known, I'd have weighed myself last night, but I didn't. So the reality is I'm going into my big weekend away, birthdays and what have you, this weekend, not knowing. But do you know what? Actually, I don't think it's that important. So I just want to go back and revisit what my original goals were. So, excuse me, lunchtime cup of tea there. So what I said, well, I think I had 3 goals. One was about losing 4 kilos. One was about dropping a jean size because over the Christmas period I literally couldn't get in my old jeans. And the third was about feeling a lot more energised, having had the flu and so forth. So what can I report? Well, as of last week I was 2.9 kilos down. So I'm either going to be there or thereabouts. You know, I may have lost a bit more or whatever, but I've got 1 kilo to go in 2 weeks. So I'm going to be pretty much on target. I'm really going to focus to make sure I hit that 4 kilos. But, you know, who knows, the wind might be against me, but pretty much I should be on my target for 4 kilos. The great news is I put my old jeans on last week, possibly a little snug still, but fit perfectly well. So that one, and definitely I've got lots more energy. And whether that's just, you know, kind of post-flu or a couple of months further along the line, I think it's more than that. So definitely feel a lot better. But my focus has shifted away from this 8 weeks actually to something much further away. And it was interesting, John is my lead trainer, and he emailed this week and he was asking for our goals, and that really made me stop and think, because in 2 weeks time am I just going to give it all up and go back to how things used to be? Well, absolutely not. And 10 weeks he asked for. Well, 10 weeks takes me to just a week before I go on holiday. We're off to France for 6 weeks in the summer. And I thought, well, where do I want to be before I head off? Because if I'm not in a good place, then 6 weeks away, you know, spells potential disaster. But well, actually, where I would like to be by then, I would like to be best part of a stone down from where I started. So that's kind of 6.5 kilos, give or take, I think. So that means after the end of this, end of April, I've got another 2.5 kilos to go. Now, why is being a stone down important? Because in itself, actually, it's an irrelevant goal. And I spoke a couple of weeks ago about having a sense that the person I wanted to be, the weight I wanted to be, was when the person looking back at me through the mirror was the same as the person in my head. You know, we all have a vision of what we look like, and I look in the mirror in the studio at times and go, you know, who the hell's that? Oh, it's me. Oh, fatty over there. And just that sense of that person coming back at me is the same as the person in my head. Is actually quite important to me. You know, I've made no secret, I am 60 this year. And wanting to go into that next phase, having a real sense of who I am and how I feel about myself is really important, actually. So, and I think if I get closer to a stone, I'll be a lot closer to that. But it's definitely a journey, and it's probably more about where I am in a year's time rather than where I am by the end of June. But if I focus it on weight, because that's a key part of that journey, I think, well, actually, it's not about the weight. It's not about just getting there. It's about what happens in between. So, you know, so I've named 4 things I think are key, which are kind of more controllable goals that I can deal with day in, day out. So one of them is I'm going to continue being in the studio 3 to 4 times a week. I'll try for 4. Sometimes the diary's against you, you're away or business or what have you, but I'll certainly do my best to be there 4 times a week, and if all else fails, it'll be 3 times a week. I've said I want to beat all my testing scores when we have testing week in June. I want them all to have improved. And again, in itself, is that important? Probably not, but I think what's important is it changes my intention when I'm training. It's not just about turning up, it's about the effort I put in. My strength is my greatest asset, so it would be good to get better at that. The CV side of things is my bigger weakness, and so again it would be good to see that I've made small improvements there as well. So I think it just changes my intention. Instead of just coasting on the bike, I'm maybe really trying to push myself to take it to another level. I want to continue making healthy food choices. I definitely had got myself into a bit of a pickle of just, and I think you've fallen into that, well, what the hell's the point? So what? It's another packet of crisps, so what? Let's have curry and rice. But it has just snapped me out of that, and I'm eating massively more fruit and veg every day and making far better healthy food choices. My snacks are nuts and carrots and hummus, and feel really comfortable because I have throughout endeavoured not to be on a diet. My sense I'm denying myself food or saying I can't have that has never featured for me, and that was really, really important. I went on my first diet, I think I was 14, and I put on a stone, and I was kind of obsessed with the fact that I wasn't allowed, and so I just won't go down that road again. So I certainly don't feel I've been dieting, but I have been making healthy food choices. And my fourth manageable goal, or something I can control day in, day out, is that I don't want to drink more than, I can't remember if I said 3 or 4 nights, but essentially I want to make sure there's 3 or 4 alcohol-free days in every week. That having a small drink every day doesn't continue to be a feature. Again, that's an easy thing. And I think if I do those things, I train regularly, I train hard, I make healthy food choices, and I don't drink alcohol every day, I stand a much better chance of being a stone down by June. And if I'm a stone down by June, then I stand a much better chance of seeing the person in the mirror that I wanted to be. But I think that probably the biggest revelation for me is when I think back about those original goals, all of them in a way are irrelevant, and I think what I was missing, and I have now discovered, is it was nothing actually about any of those things. It was that sense, I think I felt out of control, so it was, well, what the hell, why not, oh, fish and chips, who cares? And I think what I feel now is a sense that I've got my shit together, and that I didn't then, that it was all just a bit out of control, it all felt a bit chaotic, and freewheeling, therefore, well, what the hell's another fish and chips or a packet of crisps or gin and tonic? And I do really feel now that I have got my shit together, and maybe that's just my personality type. I do need to feel like I'm on it and taking charge of my destiny, and I absolutely feel that. So if I'm allowed at this stage in the game to change the goal, I think if I knew what I know now, that would have been my goal. And I've absolutely achieved that already. So it's been a great process for that, but we've still got 2 weeks to go. I am still on it. I am determined to still hit those markers. So I hope that's been useful. It's been really interesting. A few people have come back to me and said, you've been really honest and real about it. And, I'm not Jane Fonda in the gym for sure. I'm, the age that I am, I do the best that I can. And, I stumble and fall like, real human beings do. So, if it's helped anybody to identify with that, I'm pleased for that, and I'm looking forward to seeing other people go on this journey, and I know that they'll help me too. So this weekend we're off down to the New Forest. Cake is involved, champagne's going to be involved, dinner's out, lunch is out, but it is only for 48 hours. There are another 5 days in that week, so the plan is to get straight back on it and to not let that derail the whole thing. I'll let you know how I got on. Cheerio.